high in the Scottish Highlands, beyond the last marked trails, there are stories of something that watches climbers from the fog. A towering figure, too large to be human, silent, always just out of sight. For centuries, hikers crossing the mountain known as Ben Macdui have reported the same terrifying feeling. Heavy footsteps behind them, sudden panic, and the sensation that something enormous is following them through the mist. The locals call it Fear Liath Mòr, the grey man of Ben Macdui. But what exactly is it? A spirit? A creature? A hallucination caused by the mountain itself? Or something far older hiding in the Highlands of Scotland? Fear Liath Mòr is one of the most famous supernatural legends in Scottish folklore. The name translates roughly from Scottish Gaelic as the Big Grey Man. According to legend, the Grey Man haunts Ben Macdui, the second highest mountain in the United Kingdom, located deep within the Cairngorms National Park of Scotland. Unlike many monsters in folklore, the Grey Man is rarely described as attacking people directly. Instead, witnesses describe something arguably worse: the overwhelming certainty that they are being watched, stalked, followed. Many climbers who experience the phenomenon report sudden dread, irrational fear, rapid heartbeat, and the distinct sound of giant footsteps pacing behind them in the fog. And almost every witness says the same thing. They never fully see it, only glimpses, a gigantic shadow moving through the mist. The origins of the Grey Man legend are difficult to trace precisely because the story likely existed in oral Highland folklore long before it was ever written down. The Scottish Highlands have always carried an atmosphere of mystery. For centuries, isolated clans passed down stories of mountain spirits, fairy beings, and entities that lived beyond human settlements. In Celtic belief, wilderness areas, especially mountains and fog-covered valleys, were often seen as places where the boundary between the natural world and the supernatural became thin. Ben Macdui itself is a harsh and unforgiving place. Strong winds, sudden storms, dense fog that can erase visibility within seconds. In older times, travellers crossing these mountains alone could easily become disoriented or disappear entirely. Some folklorists believe the Grey Man may have originated as a cautionary tale, a supernatural explanation for the mountain's deadly conditions. But over time, the stories became far more specific. People weren't just afraid of the mountain. They believed something lived there, something enormous, something ancient. The Grey Man legend became internationally famous in the early 1900s, thanks to a man named J. Norman Collie. Collie was not a superstitious storyteller. He was a respected scientist, explorer, and mountaineer. But after descending Ben Macdui alone one afternoon, he described an experience that terrified him for the rest of his life. According to Collie, while walking through thick fog near the summit, he began hearing footsteps behind him. Crunch, crunch, crunch. At first he assumed another climber was nearby, but the footsteps were strange. Each step sounded far larger than his own, as if something gigantic was walking behind him, matching his pace. Then came the fear, an overwhelming sense of panic that he could not explain. Collie later admitted that he became so frightened that he ran blindly down the mountain for several miles. Years later, he publicly described the incident and confessed, "I felt as if something else was there." After Collie's account became public, more people began reporting similar encounters on the mountain. And strangely, many of their descriptions matched. Descriptions of the Grey Man vary, but several details appear repeatedly in witness accounts. The figure is usually described as extremely tall, sometimes over 10 feet high, humanoid in shape, grey or shadow-like in appearance, and often partially obscured by mist. Some witnesses report glowing eyes. Others describe only a dark silhouette towering above the fog. In some versions of the folklore, the grey man doesn't physically appear at all. Instead, people experience a crushing sense of dread, accompanied by the sound of footsteps or breathing nearby. The creature almost never speaks. It simply watches, waits, follows, and then disappears back into the mountain fog. Not everyone believes the grey man is supernatural. Scientists and skeptics have proposed several explanations for the phenomenon. The most famous is something called the Brocken Spectre. Brocken Spectre is an optical illusion that occurs when sunlight projects a climber's shadow onto mist or clouds below them. The shadow can appear enormous, distorted, and surrounded by strange rainbow-like halos. Combined with exhaustion, isolation, freezing temperatures, and low visibility. The mountain can create intense psychological stress. Some researchers believe climbers experiencing fear and disorientation may accidentally interpret natural sounds and shadows as something pursuing them. But believers argue that this explanation doesn't fully account for the consistency of the reports, because long before modern psychology explained fear responses, people were already describing the same entity, the same feeling, the same footsteps in the mist. Today, the Grey Man of Ben Macdui remains one of Scotland's most enduring mountain legends. Whether it's a spirit born from ancient Celtic fears, a trick of fog and isolation, or something humanity still cannot explain, the legend continues to survive because of one unsettling detail. People still report encounters there, even now. And perhaps that's what makes the Grey Man so disturbing. Unlike dragons or ancient monsters locked away in myth, the Grey Man doesn't feel like a story from the distant past. It feels like something waiting quietly in the fog for the next person to climb the mountain alone. If you enjoyed this exploration into forgotten folklore and unexplained legends, subscribe for more stories from myths, cryptids, and ancient mysteries around the world.